Hi, everyone. This is your host, Kristen Howe, and I am so excited to welcome you to our call with today's special guest, Betty Russell. Now, as a former news anchor and health writer, Betty started exploring alternative healing methods to help her own family cope with their chronic health issues. In the process, she found the emotional freedom technique, or EFT. And what happened was she experienced for herself how fast this technology could erase extremely difficult and painful emotions, and how it can change virtually every area of your life, from finances to relationships. At that point, Betty became inspired to become certified in EFT herself. And her mission now is to help other people feel the very same freedom that they may have believed was just outside of their reach until now. Now, on today's call with Betty, you will discover that you don't have to struggle to have what you want. You'll find out how to free yourself from worry, fear, anxiety, shame, and other toxic emotions. You'll learn the one thing you can do right now to feel happy and free. You'll discover a scientifically proven technique that can help you change your life effortlessly, and you will find out finally that it is possible for you to live a phenomenal life. I am so excited for this call. Betty, thank you so much for being here, and thanks for joining us, and welcome.
Thank you so much, Kristen. I'm so happy to be here, and I really appreciate the opportunity to talk with you and all your listeners.
No, I can't wait to share you with everyone. You're fantastic, and I'm really excited to share what you have to share, and also how you have to share it, sort of your take on things, because I think that's really valuable. What I'd love is if we can start just with having you share a couple of minutes of your journey, how you got where you are today, perhaps any of the times where, things weren't going as well, any of the turnaround stories, so maybe some times where you experienced that in your life, some turnarounds.
Absolutely, Kristen. As you mentioned in the intro, I started looking at alternative healing methods to help my daughter deal with some chronic health issues. But the story of why tapping became such an important part of my life, and emotional freedom techniques is something that we also call tapping for short. But the reason that it became an important part of my life started long before that. Early in my career, as you mentioned, I was a television news anchor, and I had been going along fine for months. And all of a sudden, I started having panic attacks on the air. It was overwhelming and debilitating and humiliating. I really wasn't sure what to do about it. I didn't even talk about it with anybody, which sounds unusual. Here I was on the air having a panic attack, but I think people thought I ran to the set at the last minute. They really didn't know what was happening, and it may not have been as obvious on the outside, but it was just very painful for me. So I tried what I could at that point in time to help myself. I did exercise, I did yoga, I did meditation, and I'd go along fine, and then bam, another panic attack would come. So finally, I was just miserable and anxious all the time. And I eventually asked to be taken off the air because I just didn't know what to do. I really was at a loss. And when I look back on that time now, the sad thing to me is that my anxiety had to make decisions for me. I didn't really get to decide how my career was going to progress because I just couldn't handle this. So it's interesting that I only had the panic attacks when I was on the air, but I have struggled with anxiety throughout my life at different periods of time. So fast forward, here I was desperate again. My daughter isn't feeling well, and I'm looking at alternative methods because we had exhausted the traditional medical route. Now, she really wasn't very interested in holistic techniques, but I tried EFT, and I was just amazed. It really was something that I had been looking for my whole life. I saw the potential right away. I saw that it not only reduced stress and anxiety, but it was something that I could use in many different ways to just create the life I wanted. And I actually have done that. And so I actually enjoyed it so much that I went and became certified, and I now teach EFT and I work with clients. And one of the things that I like the most about this technique, and that really sort of sums up why it's important to me, is that tapping is the one thing that finally gave me a sense of safety, because I knew that I had something that I could use anytime I needed it, anytime I felt anxious, anytime I wanted to achieve goals in my life, anytime I just wanted to feel better. And I hadn't had that for so long.
Wow, that's amazing. So what I love about this is that this isn't something that you were just sort of interested in and you became certified in. It's something that actually helped you transform your life, which I think is so powerful. So let's talk about this, because one of the things that you talk about is that when it comes to creating the life we desire, and I love that you use those words, by the way, because I believe that we create our lives. So when it comes to creating the life we desire, you say that there's a difference between working hard and struggling. So what is that difference between working hard and struggling?
Well, there's a lot of talk about effortless everything these days. And the truth is, we know inside that we do have to work hard for some things. We need to work hard if we're going to run a marathon, if we're going to get a college degree. But sometimes there's a lot of struggle involved. And what the difference is for me between struggle and working hard is naturally in proportion to what you're doing. Struggling is when you're really working hard and you're trying to muscle yourself to where you're trying to go. And I have found that when we're in that struggle mode, that's when things are out of proportion, the effort is out of proportion to what you're doing, that it's usually our beliefs about ourselves and our internal programming that are setting up roadblocks that are making it difficult for us to do what it is that we want to do. And when I talk with people about this and teach classes, I ask them to think about things that they know they can do well. It might be something simple like bake a cake or balance a checkbook or run a race or even run a mile. Now, when you're doing those things and you know that you can do them, you do them on autopilot. You don't worry about it. You just do it. If something goes wrong, you don't beat yourself up over it. You know, okay, I will bake a better cake next time. I'll balance the checkbook when I have some time, or my run tomorrow will be better. And the reason we do that is we know that we can do it the next time. There's that sense of knowing. So when blocks are holding us back, that's when we're not in that mode of knowing. It's that the blocks are holding us back. And what's going on at that point in time is we're suppressing our fears and worries because we've been told to focus on the positive. Sometimes all we have to do is just shift the way we're thinking, and that can work if it's just a minor issue. But when we try to suppress things that are deep inside of us that are causing some major problems, it really doesn't work for most people. The thing we want to do is we want to work hard when we need to, but we want to get rid of that struggle. So we want to have that sense of knowing that we're going to get where we're going and that it's going to be easier than we thought.
Okay, so how if we're concerned that it's not going to be easy, if we're terrified that it's not going to be easy, what's a way that we can enter into it with that, like, okay, this is going to be easier than I thought? Does it, if we just tell ourselves that, or what's something we can do to sort of enter into that without totally freaking ourselves out? Does that make sense?
Absolutely. So one of the things that happens when we have all those fears that are, it's not going to be easy or we're not going to be able to do it, it could be a worry, a fear, anxiety, it could be all kinds of things, is often we try to ignore it. And I'll tell you, Kristen, boy, do I wish that worked. I mean, who does want to look at the negative and painful things in our lives? But it really just doesn't. And I think when it's a major issue and we try to sweep it under the rug and focus on the positive, it just doesn't work in the long term, and we know that. I'm not talking about those minor emotions like if you got cut off in traffic, but when you've had a bad time often, when you feel bad most of the time, and something is a major struggle for you, there's something going on, and it's really time to do something about it. So, and it's not just the emotions that are easy to name like fear and shame and worry. You have to be on the lookout for these subconscious blocks that can keep us from manifesting in almost every area of our lives. And these are the patterns that we developed to respond to the world as we interpreted it. So this could be somebody telling us we're not good at something when we were young, or we failed, or somebody hurt our feelings. All of these negative events started shaping our expectations about ourselves in the world and the patterns of thinking and behaving. So when we ignore all that programming and patterns, it doesn't mean that it's not there. It just means that we're letting them wreak havoc in our lives. So the first step, you asked, how do we do this? You have to stop ignoring the negative feelings and all that stuff that's there. And believe it or not, just acknowledging that we have those feelings often gives people a great sense of relief. But then once you acknowledge them, you have to find a way to release them. And there are many different ways to release them. And I think tapping is just one of the wonderful ways to do that.
Perfect. Yeah. Okay. So good. So everyone listening, what we're hearing here, what Betty's saying, and I firmly believe this as well, is that the longer we try to ignore, run from, pretend these things don't exist, like worry, fear, anxiety, shame, any of that stuff, it actually cripples us and makes it harder. So the first thing we're going to do is just realize that it is there. Now, Betty, once we've done that, once we've acknowledged that, once we're like, okay, I get it, I got to look at it, what is it that we can do? Is it really, I know there are a ton of things, but is there something that we can do, even with you here on the call, to help us sort of get a grip of how EFT can help us get rid of worry, fear, anxiety, shame? I mean, all shame, boy, that's one of those words, isn't it? Is there anything we can do together?
There is, and we can do a tapping session. It might be helpful if I explain what tapping is for people who don't know what it is. Tapping is a meridian energy technique. It combines exposure therapy, cognitive therapy, and acupressure points. In short, what we do when we tap is we focus on the discomfort, we think about the feelings we have in new ways, and we stimulate some of the body's acupressure points. Now, some emotional and physical issues can resolve in minutes or in one session, and some more complex issues might take longer. Like many traditional medical therapies, we're not really sure exactly how tapping works. But what we think is that it sends calming signals through the body that reduce stress and diminish the intensity of difficult memories, negative beliefs, and uncomfortable feelings. Research has confirmed that tapping reduces the level of cortisol, which is a stress hormone, and that was a really big study that showed that when you tap, the cortisol levels before and after tapping were significantly reduced. Then some scientists think that tapping actually interferes with the body's fight or flight response. That's, the biological mechanism that kicks in when we think our survival is threatened. And then there's one last thing that's sort of a new way of looking at the brain. Scientists now know that the brain can change. It's not fixed. The processes and pathways aren't fixed, which is what they thought for many years. So that concept is called neuroplasticity. And scientists now believe that tapping actually rewires the neural pathways in the brain so that we have new responses to situations that previously caused great fear and anxiety. It's great for phobias, which is just a conditioned response. What I really love about tapping is that we aim it at something very specific, which is kind of a unique strategy when it comes to self-help techniques. This is something that we look at, what is bothering us, and we aim this tapping right at it. And often when something's really holding you back, and it diminishes your self-confidence or just makes you feel awful, you can tap on that and sometimes get results in actually minutes. So if you want, Kristen, we can actually start a tapping session.
Yeah, I would love that.
Okay, so for this exercise, I wanted to let people know how we actually do the tapping process. We normally tap on 9 points, but for this exercise, we're going to make it easy, and we're going to tap on 4 points. So I want to let you know where they are, so if you're at home, you can tap along with us. The first one is the karate chop point on the side of the hand. This is where you would karate chop a wooden board. The second point we're going to use is the eyebrow point, and that's the inside of the eyebrow near the bridge of the nose. Now, you usually use 2 fingers when you tap, and you'll just keep tapping while I repeat statements, and you'll know when to move. So you'll just tap on these points and move. The third point is the side of the eye, and that's right beside the eye socket. The fourth point is the collarbone point. Now, if you go to the base of the neck, there's a U-shaped bone there. If you go down and out a few inches, there are 2 indentations on either side. You can tap on one side, you can tap on both at the same time, and when you tap, you can tap on either side of the body or both sides of the body. So again, the 4 points are the karate chop point on the side of the hand, the inside of the eyebrow, the outside of the eye, and the collarbone. So today, I thought what we could do, Kristen, is tap on stress. And I want everybody to think about something that causes them stress. It can be stress in general, or it can be something specific like financial stress, relationship stress, issues with weight, whatever's really causing you some stress right now. I want you to think about that while you're tapping. We won't be saying those words, but I want your intention to be focused on that stress that you have. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to use a setup statement. And the setup statement acknowledges the issue that we're working on. So we're going to be admitting, I have all this stress. And then we're going to balance it with a balancing statement that lets the subconscious mind know the positive way that we want to feel. Now, a typical setup statement is, even though I have all this stress, I deeply and completely accept myself. So we're going to start tapping on the karate chop point, and Kristen is going to repeat after me. She'll be my shadow. So you can repeat the same statements that I say with Kristen and tap on the points, and I'll let you know what points to tap on and when to move on. So let's start on the karate chop point.
Okay.
Even though I feel all this stress,
even though I feel all this stress,
I deeply and completely accept myself.
I deeply and completely accept myself.
Even though I feel this uncomfortable stress in my body,
even though I feel this uncomfortable stress in my body,
I accept myself and how I feel.
I accept myself and how I feel.
Even though this tension and stress sometimes feels overwhelming.
Even though this tension and stress sometimes feels overwhelming.
I'm ready to let these feelings go.
I'm ready to let these feelings go.
Now we're going to move to the eyebrow point. All this stress.
All this stress.
Side of the eye. It feels overwhelming.
It feels overwhelming.
Collarbone. All these anxious feelings.
All these anxious feelings.
Back to the eyebrow. Too much stress.
Too much stress.
Side of the eye. Thoughts racing in my mind.
Thoughts racing in my mind.
Collarbone. Causing all this tension in my body.
Causing all this tension in my body.
Eyebrow point. This overwhelming stress.
This overwhelming stress.
Side of the eye. All these worries.
All these worries.
Collarbone. All this overwhelming stress.
All this overwhelming stress.
Eyebrow point. All this stress in my body.
All this stress in my body.
Side of the eye. It feels overwhelming.
It feels overwhelming.
Causing all this tension in my body.
Causing all this tension in my body.
Eyebrow. This uncomfortable stress in my body.
This uncomfortable stress in my body.
Side of the eye. From all this stress.
From all this stress.
Collarbone. Stress makes it hard to enjoy my day.
Stress makes it hard to enjoy my day.
Side of the eye. It's taking a toll on me.
It's taking a toll on me.
Collarbone. What if I don't have to feel this way?
What if I don't have to feel this way?
Eyebrow. This remaining stress.
This remaining stress.
Side of the eye. All this remaining stress.
All this remaining stress.
Collarbone. What if I don't have to suffer this way?
What if I don't have to suffer this way?
Eyebrow. What if I can let some of this stress go?
What if I can let some of this stress go?
Side of the eye. All these racing thoughts.
All these racing thoughts.
Collarbone. This stress and anxiety.
This stress and anxiety.
Eyebrow. It's taking a toll on me.
It's taking a toll on me.
Side of the eye. But what if I can let it go?
But what if I can let it go?
Collarbone. I can be safe without the worry.
I can be safe without the worry.
Eyebrow. I'm going to let this stress go.
I'm going to let this stress go.
Side of the eye. I choose to release all this stress and anxiety.
I choose to release all of the stress and anxiety.
Collarbone. It's safe to let it go.
It's safe to let it go.
Eyebrow. So I'm letting it go.
So I'm letting it go.
Side of the eye. It doesn't serve me anymore.
It doesn't serve me anymore.
Collarbone. I can feel calm and centered now.
I can feel calm and centered now.
All right, now we'll just take a deep breath. Now that's just something to give you a sense of the process of tapping and hopefully a sense of the relief that you can feel when you do some tapping.
Wow, yeah. I love tapping personally, and you actually, I love how you took us through. There's a calm strength to you, which I think, I personally think that really helps. Just when you do have someone leading you through it, it felt like my brain got quiet in the middle of it all.
I think that's a perfect explanation, Kristen. And you know what I think happens is I think our body becomes used to tapping. I can tell you that, for example, the most sensitive spot for me is the collarbone point. And when I even head my hand toward my collarbone, if I'm driving in a car, for example, and I'm not going to tap on everything, my body just relaxes. It just gets used to the tapping process. And it's just so amazing. And it really is something that you can imagine somebody who struggled with those panic attacks like I did, that this is just a breath of fresh air.
Absolutely. Now talk to me about this, because I think, and I want to talk a little bit more about the things that we can tap on. But before we do, what I want to ask you about, because this is something that I hear a lot from my listeners, is things like, Kristen, I would love to do this, but I don't even know. I know that I'm blocked, but I don't know what it is, right? That sort of thing. So when we're dealing with subconscious blocks, when we're not even fully aware of what's going on, first of all, how do we identify it, and how do we work with that? And can we work with that?
Absolutely. And you know what I have found when I've worked with people is that sometimes we'll try to find something. And the way that we do that is when somebody has a situation, we'll say, what do you feel right now? So let's say you feel not good enough. Then what we'll say is, do you remember the first time you felt that way, or the worst time, the most intense time that you felt that way? Sometimes people can zero right into that, and they'll say, I haven't thought about that in years. And sometimes they don't. And what happens is when you don't know what it is, what I always do is I just say, please let me know what it is. Let everything come up that is holding me back. What is this block? And I'll just tap to find out what the block is. If I don't get a response, and sometimes I don't, I'll just say, I'm ready to release that and let it go. And I'll do a whole round or 2 or 3 on just releasing it and not needing to know what that block is. Because, especially as we get older, some of us have decades here of stuff that's been going on. So trying to find a block that happened when you might be, 5 or 6, it can be a challenge. But tapping can help regardless of whether you know exactly what it is or not. And there's so many tools to sort of play detective and try to find the reason. And the thing that's really interesting about tapping when you tap with people is, when I tap with people, I'll say, did anything come up for you? And sometimes they'll say something that seems totally unrelated. Like they'll be tapping for pain in their shoulder, and they'll say, well, I remember when I, failed my physics exam in high school. And then somehow if we go toward that physics exam, we'll find out that something else happened there, and that's what caused the pain. And another way, one more thing, just as a tip for people, because they might want to use this when they're using other techniques as well. But if something is going on in your life, so say, for example, you do have a pain, or like if I were to go back in time to my panic attacks, I would have looked at myself and said, what happened in your life at the time that those symptoms that you're concerned about started.
Mm.
And it may be something obvious. It may be that it's the death of somebody that's close to you. It may be a big life change. Sometimes you'll say something like, well, we just moved. It wasn't that big of a deal. But then when you explore, there's a lot there. So there are ways to get to the bottom of things and to let them go with tapping, even if you don't know what they are. And I think releasing and letting go is probably one of the most powerful things that I do with tapping. Is I love in every round to do releasing and letting it go.
Releasing and letting it go. Okay, so explain why that's so. And those are some of the words that I think cause the greatest amount of fear in people. The releasing and letting it go part, and yet it's the part that I hear from people all the time. I know that's so essential. So explain why releasing and letting it go is so essential, and also why you like having that be part of it.
Honestly, when I first started tapping with people, I started using that because a few of the people that I was working with had already done a lot of tapping and they didn't know what the issue was. And I saw how profound it was when we just said, whatever this is, whatever this pain is, I'm just releasing it and letting it go. And people would look years younger at the end of a session. It was really amazing to me.
Wow.
And I couldn't believe that it was, I didn't know exactly what it was. And I would say to people, well, where did you feel the release? And almost always it was when we were releasing and letting go. And I don't know if it's just giving the subconscious mind permission to do that, but it really is a very healing thing. And that's what EFT is. It's a very healing modality. You can use it for goal setting and manifesting and all of that, but the way you accomplish those things, the way you manifest, the way you attract, the way you do your goal, achieving your goals, it's all about healing first and then manifesting from this place of health and happiness and strength.
I love that you said that, and you're so right. It's sort of like, that's why I talk all the time about manifesting from the inside out. So healing will allow that manifesting. Now, can you actually use, can tapping help if people want to manifest certain things in their lives? Can it be used in that sort of way as well?
It absolutely can, and I think it has amazing results, again, because of the fact that we're starting from a place of healing. I actually call tapping the secret behind the secret. And of course, some of this is just my own opinion, but I believe that we do attract what we focus on in our lives. So if people are saying positive affirmations or creating elaborate vision boards, or what I do is I have a vision book, so I can take pages out and put them in when I have different dreams and goals. I think those are wonderful and empowering tools. But I know many people have done this. They create great affirmations, they do wonderful vision boards, and they use it every day. They say the statements, they look at the vision board, and nothing happens. It just doesn't happen. So why is that? Sometimes people just give up at that point and say, oh, none of this stuff works. But the truth is that they are actually manifesting at that point. But what they're doing is they're ignoring the negative programming and beliefs that they have about themselves and about their world. Because I think what happens is that we attract the sum total of how we feel about something. So if we say, I really want my soulmate, for example, but there's a big part of us inside that was hurt or rejected or doesn't feel good enough, think about the amount of time every day that you spend on those positive thoughts, if it's affirmations or a vision board or whatever else you use. In the space of 24 hours, it's a minute amount of time. We just don't have time to sit there and spend 8 hours reciting affirmations. The rest of the time, it's all the natural stuff that's there that's projecting out to the universe. And that's why we're not manifesting what we think we want. So the way to manifest what you do want is to focus on what you want and look at or pay attention to the thoughts that come to mind when you say, I want my soulmate, or I want to have a wonderful house overlooking the ocean. what thoughts come up when you say that? If you're thinking, oh, no one will ever love me, or I don't deserve a big house on the ocean, write those things down and start tapping on those beliefs that you have, because those, we call those yes, buts, or tail enders, because you say, yes, I want this, but I don't really deserve it. Or yes, I want a soulmate, but nobody's really going to love me. And when we tap on those things, those are the things that are keeping the manifesting from us. That's why I say it's healing from the inside out, because once we heal all that stuff, things just start happening naturally. One of the things that people say with tapping is they say, well, I'm a little worried about talking negative things or speaking about negative things that I feel, because I'm supposed to focus on the positive. And they'll always think, well, I want to end with positive, or I want to tap on the positive. And the funny thing is, I felt that way when I learned tapping myself. I said, you know what, I'm not going to say these negative things when I go home. I might do it here while they're training me, but when I go home, I'm just going to focus on the positive. Well, it didn't take me long at all to realize that that is just not where the power is. That's not where you feel the relief. And so when you tap on the negative, and you might think, well, I'm going to end with the positive, you don't even have to, Kristen, because if you had that, it just happens naturally. So let's say it was, I don't deserve that wonderful house, and you start tapping on that. If you want, you can go and change to positive at the end. You can say, I am happy in this new house, I deserve this house, and whatever other positive thoughts come to mind. But the truth is, you feel so good when you got rid of that feeling that you didn't deserve it, that you already feel much better than any words you could put to it.
Okay, so let me ask you this. Is there anything that you found that tapping doesn't particularly work for? Any issues, anything that you can think of where you're like, you know what, for some reason, or have you found that it really does, you haven't found anything that it doesn't work for?
Kristen, I'm going to tell you something. I don't like that question, and I'm going to tell you why, because people aren't going to believe my answer. Because the truth is that it doesn't work all the time. And one of the reasons it doesn't work all the time is it really does focus and bring relief on an emotional component of a problem. But it works on so many things that it's really weird. I can't even imagine how many things that people have used tapping for and that it works for. For example, and some of this has been studied. For example, there have been studies that show that it has worked with stress, anxiety, depression, post-traumatic stress disorder, pain and physical symptoms. Now, people wonder, well, why does it work on that? It works because there's an emotional component to so much of our health. Even when we don't think it, even when we think, well, we had an injury, there's so much relief when you get at the emotions behind that. It helps phobias. It's enormously helpful for phobias, and actually very quickly. And it can help people lose weight, manage cravings, ease test anxiety, and improve athletic performance. Now, that just sounds like snake oil, probably, because how could that happen? But it really does, because these are studies that showed this, and I've used that in so many different areas in my own life. So in tapping, we say, try it on everything. And the reason we say try is because it doesn't work on everything. We don't say it solves everything. We say try it on everything because you might find that you're going to get some relief. And I want to take 1 second, if I could, and explain one study that I just thought was so important about the benefits and the success of EFT. There was one study about the use of EFT in veterans who had post-traumatic stress disorder. Now, the veterans who participated in this study went through 6 one-hour tapping sessions with an EFT coach. That's it. Now, many of these veterans had been undergoing traditional medical therapy and treatment for years. But in this study, they did 6 sessions with an EFT tapping coach. After those 6 sessions, 86% of the veterans who participated no longer met the criteria for clinical PTSD. And then they did a follow-up 6 months later, and 80% of the participants continued to measure well below the level for PTSD. And these veterans experienced unspeakable traumas, and they saw things that no one should have to see. So I always tell people, imagine if it can work for people who went through things like that. Imagine what it can do for most of the rest of us who fortunately haven't had to experience things like that.
Wow, that's amazing. And I personally know from some people in my life how disarming and how disabling PTSD can be. So that's thrilling to know that this can be something that is assisting people. That's absolutely fantastic. Here's a question, and I think this is something, even when it's come up in conversations with people, this is something I've heard. It's like, do I have to do it all the time? Is it like an every once in a while thing? Like how can you have the most dramatic effect on your life with it?
Well, I'm going to say that people should tap the way it feels right for them. For some people, that might be just tapping when they have a really serious problem or something happens. For other people, they might want to adopt this as a daily practice, like yoga and meditation. That's what I do, because there are some different ways that you can use tapping. So we do the same process, but some of the ways that we can use tapping is, for one, deep healing. That is probably the most well-known use of tapping, because it really is an effective way to get at things that have been bothering you for years and decades and really get a sense of relief that can completely turn your life around. Then there's what I call maintenance tapping. And so this is regular tapping that you do. It might be morning tapping or tapping at night just to feel better. So I would put that in the category of, say, a meditation. Then there's performance tapping. So anytime you have something that you have to do that you're anxious about, it could be taking a test, it could be giving a presentation at work, it could be an athletic event, anything that's performance related, you can do some tapping on that. And there have been studies that showed that it's wonderful for performance issues. I think they studied it in golf and basketball free throws and test anxiety and public speaking. So there's a lot of evidence that it can really help with performance. And then there's probably my favorite, the person who had those panic attacks, what I call emergency tapping. And this is really my favorite way to use tapping. And I call it emergency tapping, but it doesn't really have to be an emergency. What it is that something happens that you're just not expecting in your day, and you're left with this overwhelming feeling, and what do you do with it? I love to tap on those moments for a couple of reasons. One, because it turns things around very quickly when it's something that just happened. And then two, that sometimes if you can stop the things that happen today, for example, you're preventing yourself from having all this angst 5 and 10 years from now. Imagine if you could go back in time to something that does cause you stress today. Maybe it was something a bully said when you were in middle school, or maybe it was some kind of rejection that you had, Kristen, as an actress. And it's painful, and you don't know how to get rid of it, and it just kind of rears its head every so often. If that happened today, you can tap on that as a past issue, absolutely. But if that happened today, you can just tap and just stop that in its tracks. It's not going to be that thing that bothers you a month from now, a year from now, or a decade from now.
Interesting. Wow. Okay, can you quickly just name the different types of tapping again? Because I love that that just really crystallized it for me. I was like, oh, that's what an amazing tool. So what are the different kinds again?
Well, the way I label them is I call it deep healing, maintenance tapping, performance tapping, emergency tapping, and I should have thrown in there tapping to manifest or attract what you want, because you really can shape your life. It's not all about just getting rid of that one painful emotion. It's about healing yourself so that you can create that life that you want.
I love that. So it's sort of like it's an all-purpose tool that you can get specific with depending on what your needs are. Is that a good way of putting it?
Absolutely. And you can use it in different ways at different points in time. Today you might need deep healing. Tomorrow you might need performance tapping.
Yeah, exactly. Or, even from minute to minute sounds a bit too much, but you know what I'm saying? Like literally you're having a great day. And then, as you said, something happens where you're left with these emotions and these feelings of like, ugh, you know, we've all had that happen. Something kind of comes at us from nowhere. And so we can tap on that so that it doesn't tank our whole day, right?
That's right. Absolutely.
Well, and that right there, I mean, if you're for so many of you who are on the sort of path and journey of manifestation and really working on the consistent positive manifestation, that's a huge element, because a lot of times why we get thrown off is purely because we allow our energetic vibration to get thrown off. So if we have a tool to put us back on track quickly, your manifestations are going to gain massive momentum as well. So that's really, I just love that. I think that's absolutely fantastic. Betty, what is something, like if I said to you, okay, Betty, what is something we could do literally right now in this instant just to start feeling better and happier, like right this second, what would it be?
Well, you know, it's funny that you mentioned that, because it's exactly what we were just talking about. I would say focus on how you feel right now. Now, you would think I was going to say tapping. You can use tapping to help with that. But I think I would say to people, don't settle for feeling bad about meaningless things in your life. We spend all this time worrying about the past and worrying about the future, and we just let today happen. So we get upset in a traffic jam, we get frustrated in the lines at the supermarket, and we just think, oh, life is this way. This is the way that life is. It's stressful, and that's all there is to it. But these daily and minute-by-minute emotions determine our life, Kristen. They determine how happy we are and what we attract into our lives. It's all about the vibration. It affects what we create in our future by how we're experiencing today. So my suggestion is to pay attention to how you feel today, and don't spend much time feeling miserable or stressed. Now, does that mean you're not going to have negative emotions? Of course not. But you can decide not to be bothered by those everyday irritations. You can choose to feel better and just shift that energy. Now, sometimes you can just shift your focus, and that's enough. But if there is something that's bothering you and you can't seem to shake it, that's a perfect time to try tapping and try to get rid of it so that you have a great day. We have to start with today.
And I love something that you said in there, which is don't settle for, you know, getting stuck in feeling badly. That really is settling. You know, so many of us think it's like this thing. No, you're settling because you don't deserve that. So you're settling. You deserve much more than that. And I also love what you just brought up, is that sometimes you're able to just shift how you're feeling by becoming aware of it. Oh, you know, I'm mad at the woman in front of me at the grocery, but do I really need to be, you know, and you can shift it like that. And then other times you just can't seem to shake it. And I love that you brought to our attention, that's a great time to use tapping. You know, obviously I'm sure it can vary, but what is like the shortest amount of time we can tap?
You can tap for minutes. So if something happened, like you were frustrated that you got cut off in traffic, I tap in the car. And literally sometimes a round or two, which is the 9 points, is all that it takes. Often it depends on what else is going on. So sometimes there might be another issue that's at play. You know, if you're stressed at work, for example, there might be all kinds of things at work, like anxiety about, you know, providing for your family or not having a career that you wanted to have. But if it's just like something that just happened and it really has no emotional underpinnings, really 1 or 2 rounds and you can feel amazing.
I love that. And I love exactly, you know, just that thing, right? So I think we get, it's almost like we get conditioned to it. So suddenly we know we're going to tap. So it's almost like, wouldn't that be kind of a trigger to automatically start to raise our vibration, just that in itself? Have you found that?
I think so, because I think what happens is when you don't have a way to manage those emotions, what the emotions that you feel on a daily basis, there's really not much you can do to raise your vibration. You kind of just accept it and take it because that's the way life is. And that's why I love tapping, because honestly, it's the only thing that I've ever used that's worked this way for me. I love other techniques, and tapping works wonderful with just about everything. So it isn't something that's going to overtake yoga or meditation or anything else. It's something that can complement everything. But it really is something that I think provides laser-focused relief in a way that I'm not sure I've ever experienced with anything else.
Huh. That's so cool. I love that. Now, do you have, and that, by the way, I mean, that's part of why I'm here, to provide everyone listening with tools, because, this is something, some of the people listening are going to be like, this is exactly, tapping is the tool that resonates with me. There are lots of tools out there. What I get excited about is providing sort of a window, like a way for us to look into what the different tools are, so we can go, oh yeah, that resonates with me. That makes a lot of sense to me. I get that. I want to use that to help me take my life to the next level, to empower me. And that's what I'm here doing. That's what I'm thrilled about. And that's why I'm thrilled that you've been here, and you've been so forthcoming and really sharing. And I love that you took us through that tapping session, by the way. So here's my question for you, because it really does help us, when we hear things in theory, and then it helps us to hear some of the things that have actually occurred for people. So can you take a few minutes and just share some of the amazing turnarounds that you have seen from people who have applied tapping and applied what you teach?
Absolutely. I love to share stories about how tapping is helpful. Okay, so one woman who I tapped with also is very familiar with tapping, and she had been trying to find out why she kept gaining weight. And so I tried to help her with that, and we really couldn't find the reason, but we did a lot of tapping about releasing it and letting it go. And I really wasn't sure what to expect, but she wrote me a month later by email and said that she had lost 11 pounds. And I was just so excited for her. And then she emailed me a couple months after that, and she had lost 38 pounds. And she said it wasn't a struggle at all. So she had been involved in such a struggle about her weight. And once she started tapping on these issues, she just said she automatically started making healthier choices about diet and exercise. So that was one great experience for her and for me. And then I actually had a pretty dramatic breakthrough. I had been a health writer for many years, and I actually still am a health writer, but I had been working for one company, and when the economy changed, they were cutting back on freelancers and all of that, so I started tapping on that. And within 1 month, I had a full-time contracting position, I had a part-time retainer position, and these things just literally came out of thin air. They were things that I didn't know about before, people I didn't know about, and it was just sort of amazing timing, and I really felt like it was the tapping. It really was exciting and amazing. I tapped with one woman who had a family who had a genetic disease, and she had lost many of her family to this disease, and she really was struggling. And I did a session with her, and at the end she said, I haven't felt this level of contentment and relief in decades, because this had been something that she had been experiencing all her life. And then I'll just tell you one quick final story. I was tapping with another client about clutter, and we were getting to some deep emotions that she felt about this, and she looked wonderful at the end of the session. This was via Skype. She really looked a lot younger. And the interesting thing was that she told me at the end of the session that she had been having this neck pain, which we didn't tap on at all because she hadn't mentioned it. She thought it was an early sign of aging, and she just had to get used to it. But we did all this tapping on the emotions that she was feeling about clutter, and her neck pain went away and didn't come back. That shows the connection between emotions and physical symptoms that may not be obvious at all.
I love the 4 different success stories that you just shared, because, they were different ones. So yours was a manifesting one, and then the weight loss woman, and then I think it's helpful for us to see what's possible on a varied scale. Because everyone listening, there are different things that they're focused on right now. And I think it's important what you pointed out in the beginning, that it all starts with sort of inner healing. And then that's when really miraculous things can occur, which is just thrilling. obviously, Betty, we could go on and on. I could just sit here and pick your brain on this all day because I think it's amazing how well it works. I mean, and it's something I use, so I really am a firm believer in this. We don't have all day to do that, so I asked you to create a special offer for everyone who's listening to the call. I highly encourage you, everyone, go to Betty's special offer right now. Just click on the special offer button that's on this page. It will take you right there. And what I'd love, Betty, is if you could talk us through what we'll find there.
Absolutely, Kristen. I created a program called Create Your Ideal Life Now, based on a lot of the things that we were talking about today. So the first part of the program is an easy step-by-step instruction guide about how and when to tap. It includes a tapping chart, a step-by-step guide in MP3 and PDF format, and a quick video demonstration for people who aren't that familiar with tapping. Then there are 3 great modules that I am really excited about, and people can get some really great shifts. Module 1 is called Tap for Today. In this module, you'll learn some quick tapping techniques and strategies to just make every day a great day. And it's so important to start with having a great day. This module includes 11 MP3 tapping sessions and scripts for them in PDF format. Module 2 is called Make Peace with Your Past. This module will help you neutralize those painful messages, events, and circumstances from the past that still have the power to make you miserable today. And once you start tapping on those issues, you're going to feel a tremendous sense of relief that can literally change the way you look at your life. This module includes 10 MP3 tapping sessions and scripts for them in PDF format. And then Module 3 is Focus on Your Future. This is great for the people who love to manifest. In this module, you'll find out how to get rid of those things that are keeping you stuck. And then you're going to tap yourself into the zone where things flow a lot more easily and effortlessly. This module includes 12 MP3 tapping sessions and also the tapping scripts in PDF format. Then I have some bonuses that I included. One is a Q&A that will answer questions that you have about tapping and how to use tapping with this program. And then I have 2 additional tapping sessions. There's an MP3 tapping session on feeling overwhelmed and alone. I have found that one reason people feel overwhelmed is that they feel like they have to shoulder the burden of whatever is bothering them on their own. It doesn't matter if they're married or in a relationship or have lots of close friends, they still feel alone when it comes to this particular issue. So this session is on feeling overwhelmed and alone. And then I have another MP3 session on magnifying the positive. And this is just a great session to get you in a place where you feel really positive and uplifted. Now, the program contains 5 PDFs. One of them I haven't mentioned yet is a 75-page PDF workbook that has worksheets and exercises. And then it has 37 MP3 audios and an extensive library of tapping sessions that cover a whole range of topics. Some you might want to tap on right away, and some you might not need until sometime in the future. To give you an idea of some of the topics included, we tap on stress, procrastination, financial concerns, your inner critic, shame, financial freedom, happiness, confidence, abundance, improved relationships, and much more. So I really put together a program that I think can change your life in some exciting and amazing ways.
What I love about it, too, is that one of the biggest things that I hear from a lot of people, so if you're listening and you're like most folks, maybe one of the things that you thought is, you know what, it sounds really cool. I have no idea what I would come up with to say while I was tapping. So I love that you're including the actual tapping scripts just to give us that guidance. And I would imagine then once we get more comfortable with it, we're able to sort of free flow with it. Is that correct?
Absolutely, and actually the sessions, I say in the middle, you can pause here and use your own words if you want, or when you're ready, you can continue on and we'll go to the positive. So I give people plenty of opportunity to personalize this program so that they can get the most out of it and create that life that they want.
I love that. Now, when we start working with the program, what are some of the benefits that we could expect to start experiencing, really quickly as well as over time?
Well, the first thing you're going to notice the first time you start tapping is a sense of relief. When people start tapping and they get to the bottom of a problem, and it could be just an easy, quick problem, what happens is you feel lighter, you feel more positive, you feel like the weight of the world has been lifted off your shoulders. One person told me they felt like they had a heavy backpack on and they just took it off when they tapped. So that's how you feel just right away when you start tapping. Over time, what you're going to find is that you just feel better emotionally. Whatever your emotional habits are, and I think we all have habits, you're going to be able to manage those and feel better every day. And more importantly, you're going to be able to create the life you want, because that's really, we're only here for a short period of time, and we want to live the kind of life that we want, and we deserve to. So with this program, we're going to target all the things that are keeping that from you so that you can raise your vibration and attract what you want.
I love that. And so you have the different, the different areas that you focus on. You said, we tap on stress and wealth and all of those things. So can we just sort of pick and choose what we're working on when? I guess that's the best way to put it.
Absolutely. This is your program, so you can use it however you want. What I recommend for the modules is that you start with Tap for Today, because I really like the idea of starting to feel better today. And then I suggest going to make peace with your past. And the reason for that is that our past experiences are what color and shade so much of what goes on today, and certainly what we create in the future. So I recommend that people go from today to the past and then the future. And also what I recommend is that they pick 3 areas to work on in each of the modules. So pick 3 things from today that sort of make you feel bad on a daily basis, 3 things from the past that are the most painful or that you think have the most impact on where you are today and where you're trying to go, and then the 3 goals that mean the most to you. Now, I just picked 3 because I wanted this to be manageable. I wanted it to be something that people could feel results and start making progress. You can always go back and add more. You can add more for each of the modules. You can pick and choose. If you're working on today, Tap for Today, and suddenly you're thinking about a goal that you want, and you think, I think I'll tap for happiness today or financial freedom, that absolutely works. You can mix and match however you want.
I love that. I love just really how you've put it all together. It's, it feels... that's how it feels. It feels like, okay, I can do this, and it's not overwhelming, and it's not too much, and yet it's not too little, because sometimes you feel both. So I really love how you've put this together. I think it's really powerful, and I highly encourage each and every one of you, go check this out. Click on the special offer button that's on this webpage, and we will take you right there. Betty, you're awesome. I just love how you share things. I love what you've shared. You've taken something that can sometimes feel a little, mystical and like what's really going on, and you've made sense of it so that it feels like, oh yeah, okay, I can see how this can really help me. So that's fantastic, and I love even how you broke it up into and I know this is just how you look at it, but it's really cool. The different, times or the different reasons you would tap, just because that also really helps us look at it so that we can maximize the results we get with it. Do you have any final words or thoughts that you want to share with us today?
I absolutely do, Kristen. And what I would want to say to somebody listening is really just don't give up, because your situation isn't hopeless, no matter who you are or what's going on. I would encourage you to discover the freedom that's available to you and that's right inside you. And from my point of view, it starts by feeling better right now. And the way to do that is just simply make a choice. Open your heart and mind and choose to feel better right now. I really think that is so important, and it's so often overlooked. So I wanted to tell you that you can be your best you. You can create the life you've always wanted. Just make that choice and watch the magic happen.
I love that. Okay, I'm not gonna muddy that because that's such a powerful message. So I just want to say, Betty, thank you so much. I've just loved having you here. Hopefully we can do this a million more times. I think you're fantastic.
Thank you, Kristen. I've really enjoyed the call, and thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. And everyone listening, thank you all. This is why I'm here, is because of you. You're all absolutely extraordinary. I just love getting to spend this time with you and being able to share extraordinary people like Betty with you. And until the next time, everyone, keep manifesting. Bye-bye, all.
Mm.